Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
This is French President Macron on a diplomatic mission to Moscow. The press conference dates to February 7, just a few weeks before the Ukraine war. As Russian troops gathered force, Macron made a case for de-escalation. But at stake was not only peace, but a distinctly French vision for a new global order. For years, Paris has sought to integrate Russia into the European fold, allowing the continent to achieve strategic autonomy. Leveraging Russia's natural resources and hard power would allow Europe to decouple from American influence. In turn, this would forestall a Russian-Chinese bloc from taking shape in Eurasia.
Definitely something I notice more about France, or like the more I learn about France, the more I notice it, is that they are fiercely, it's kind of the same thing with Quebec, I hear too, which is strange, like from Canada, is that France seems to be extremely, they do not like they want to be the head of their own thing, or like proud, I guess is the word. Like when you think of America, you think of America as being like super patriotic, you know, like stereotype, but France, maybe even more so. Just like with, since World War II, obviously they got defeated by Germany pretty quickly. And then after World War II, like de Gaulle, I think was very, very nationalist. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to be saying stuff I'm not sure about. And then in like the Suez crisis, they seem to be very fiercely independent, and they don't mind showing, or like showing that, you know, they don't want to be dependent on anyone.
Macron wants Europeans to think of the European Union as an entity that covers security as much as economy. He wants to give the EU a military face, gather the continent's resources, and reform it into a global power in its own right. And he wants France to be the agency of that power. And though the hostilities in Ukraine have set back France's bid for hegemony, sometimes one does not need to see the whole staircase just to take the first step.
This is a really good channel, guys. Caspian Report. I like it a lot.
Today's video is sponsored by PIA, the world's most transparent VPN provider. Using the app, you can hide your IP address and encrypt your internet connection. Doing so shields your digital life.
I'm always able to kind of get my whatever I want to watch. I find a way to do it on the internet. And I've never really thought about a VPN.
PIA, the app also blocks ads, trackers, and malicious websites, making your web experience faster and safer. But there is more. PIA has 50 servers in 50 US states. So if you want to make it look like you're browsing
the web from Oklahoma,
interests you guys,
any of the videos I watch when they have an ad or a sponsor,
PIA
please
works
use
with
their
all
link.
major streaming services. You will have unrestricted access to all your favorite content anywhere in the world, like accessing Hulu from Europe. PIA has over 30 million downloads, it's available for all platforms, and you can use it to protect up to 10 devices simultaneously. So you get a lot more bang for your buck. By using our link, you can grab an 82% discount on private internet access. That's about $2 a month, and you also get 4 extra months completely for free. So try it now. PIA has a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied with the product. Since the end of World War II, France has sought to secure a place for itself in the global order of things. During the Cold War, the country integrated into American-led institutions, including NATO and economic organizations that would later turn into the European Union. The science of these policies was clear. Nuclear deterrence would ward off external threats, while interdependence would prevent fighting within Europe. But being the junior partner was not to France's liking, so it withdrew its forces from NATO command between 1966 and 2009. It then developed its own nuclear deterrent, and still later it refused to endorse the American invasion of Iraq, a decision since vindicated by history.
That was a good choice.
In recent years, however, the need for independent European decision-making has picked up steam. As an emerging global power, China is on a collision course with the United States. Europe will be dragged into this conflict whether it likes it or not. France's response has been to push for strategic autonomy, which would keep France...
Sorry, that picture. It's like he's looking across of a bar at you, like sorry.
And by extension, Europe, allied with Washington.
What is it with these? Oh, yeah, sorry.
Strategic autonomy, which would keep France, and by extension Europe, allied with Washington, but avoid a showdown with China unless absolutely necessary. Strategic autonomy would allow Europe to expand its economic interdependence into Russia. And by drawing Moscow into a third pole, Europe would also prevent a Russian-Chinese alliance. As far as grand strategies go, this one is not shy of ambition. Macron's plan consists of concentric circles. Germany and France are at the core. Next is the Eurozone, then the wider EU, then outlying states like Britain, Turkey, Norway, and the Baltics. And finally, the Balkans, the Caucasus, Ukraine, and possibly Belarus and Russia. This interlocking system would draw Europe into a cohesive bloc, allowing it to pull out the Chinese-American rivalry. While it made sense on paper, the French plan hit a wall. COVID-19 pandemic, supply chain disruptions, and then the conflict in Ukraine have discredited Macron's strategic autonomy. The creation of the European Political Community, EPC for short, was a slight vindication. Set up in May 2022, the EPC is a biannual forum for strategic dialogue consisting of 44 states. And though invitations were withheld for Russia and Belarus, the implication is that they can join once the war in Ukraine is resolved.
It's almost sad just how Russia has so much potential. I'm no economics, global politics expert, but they have so many natural resources. They have a ton of farmland in a continent that you don't really think of as a continent with a lot of farmland. And if any country can sort of take, global warming and perhaps even benefit from it, it might be Russia getting a lot more land, a better climate. It just, there are so many places for Russia to go up. And it's just the fact that they're essentially a dictatorship and, autocracy and not as capitalist, I think, as a lot of other countries. It's sad, honestly, for the Russian people themselves. They just so much potential, and I think it's being wasted because of people like Putin. So
seen from this angle,
or just I'm not saying if Putin was gone that everything would be solved, but just the government in general,
is that they can join once the war in Ukraine is resolved. Seen from this angle, the EPC offers Russia a way to save face and stop the war in Ukraine with the promise of access to lucrative European markets. So, in theory, becoming part of the strategically autonomous Europe could change Russia's behavior and make it more willing to compromise. Yet, the French plan is full of holes, even within Europe itself. Berlin's decision to subsidize domestic energy consumption to the tune of $200 billion has stirred the pot. Though energy subsidies lower German living costs and prevent manufacturers from offshoring their operations, they also permit German consumers to outbid their European counterparts, sowing division within the single market. Moreover, Berlin cannot afford to decouple from Russia and China simultaneously, which is why Chancellor Scholz broke ranks and permitted the Chinese shipping firm COSCO to buy a stake in Hamburg port, despite national security concerns. This deal, however strategic, was just a sweetener for Scholz's visit to Beijing in November 2022. Accompanied by business leaders from BASF, Bayer, BioNTech and Siemens, Scholz made the case for strengthening economic ties. Naturally, these unilateral moves earned a rebuke from Macron, who accused Scholz of undermining European unity. Besides Germany, Eastern Europe is another area of contention. Having joined NATO to balance against Moscow's influence, few states on the periphery are keen on the French plan to welcome back Russia.
I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but the European Union, clearly it has a lot of benefits, but I don't think that people should be led into this false sense of European, I guess it wouldn't be continentalism. You know what I'm trying to say, of like European unity. It's I don't think you should blind yourself that, France wants what's best for France, Germany wants what's best for Germany, America wants what's best for America. Go down the line. And I think you can have a union, a European Union, not like to become one country, but after learning about European history and all the different ethnicities and sort of factions in history, to think that like now it's all you needed was 2 world wars and now everything's good. It's I think it's okay to be optimistic, but I don't think it's healthy to be ambivalent or of these sorts of nationalist feelings.
Tension.
I
Having
guess.
joined NATO to balance against Moscow is another area of contention. Having joined NATO to balance against Moscow's influence, few states on the periphery are keen on the French plan to welcome back Russia. Britain has latched on to this sentiment, and due to its military aid, London has gained substantial influence in Eastern Europe, all at the expense of the French. But even so, the single biggest obstacle to European strategic autonomy is the United States. For years, Washington has pushed its NATO allies to fund their own defense. But this does not mean it wants Europe to develop an independent defense policy, let alone form a partnership with Moscow. America's objective is to bleed Russia as much as possible. To this end, it has provided Ukraine with tens of billions of dollars in military.
Absolutely. Okay, absolutely. We are not giving weapons to Ukraine out of the goodness of our heart, okay? Again, maybe I'm being too pessimistic, but we're giving stuff to it's all to your own country's end. We want to give Ukraine weapons because we are more afraid of Russia and China than we are of and anything that can weaken Russia is good for us. And so, yeah, it's helping out Ukraine, but I mean, I don't think you should kid yourself to think it's like out of the goodness of America's heart. No, America's looking after their own interests. So are all these countries. So I think we can acknowledge that without being too pessimistic like I'm being, but just I think I don't like sugarcoating, I really don't like it. I like to get down to the reality, and if I'm wrong anywhere here, please let me know.
Provided Ukraine with tens of billions of dollars in military aid, imposing tremendous costs on the Russians. But military aid always comes with strings attached. In addition to subsidizing the Ukrainian military, Ukraine has also become interoperable and thus dependent on American systems. In turn, this prevents Europe from becoming self-sufficient in defense. Naturally, this collides with Macron's strategic autonomy.
Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry.
Naturally, this collides with Macron's strategic autonomy, which assigns France the role of Europe's arsenal. Paris has had some recent success in expanding its military industry. 2021 was a particularly good year for French armaments, with sales surpassing $11 billion. These exports are needed to support the French military industry, which is the world's third largest.
Jesus Christ.
And employs about 200,000 people. Yet the demand generated by rising
I for a second I was going to be like, oh, defense spending, but no, it's arms exports. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You're helping out other countries, but also you're making a lot of money. Well, you can't just say, oh, well, they're making a lot of money. They're making a killing off of the war. Therefore, we shouldn't do that and not aid Ukraine. But, I mean, you can't forget about that incentive. I don't know.
200,000 people. Yet the demand generated by rising geopolitical tensions has mostly benefited American firms like Lockheed Martin and Boeing over their
Raytheon?
French competitors.
There's a
In
Raytheon
particular,
plant
Berlin's recent
not that
purchase
far.
of dozens of F-35 jets over French alternatives was seen as a blow to European defense autonomy. But beyond weapons, Europe is also becoming increasingly dependent on American energy exports, though nothing conclusive can currently be said about
We could make a killing, okay, off of Russia's continued ostracization of just America and Canada should see dollar signs in their head if they were smart. And there's nothing to do with the war, just in Russia losing that market because they've started a war, you know? That sounded bad. Never.
the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines. The most immediate beneficiary has been the United States. America has shot past Qatar and Australia to become the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas. This is largely off the back of surging European demand generated by the war in Ukraine. There is thus no strategy or economic rationale in Washington to let Europe carve an independent path under French leadership. From American perspective, NATO is crucial in balancing against China and Russia, so America has no qualms about exploiting internal divisions to keep Europe within its orbit and away from Russia's. The only exception is Turkey, which has achieved a degree of autonomy and power broker status France can only dream of. By exempting itself from sanctions, Turkey is setting up a gas hub with Russia, cheaply purchasing energy resources that would otherwise be flowing through Nord Stream. At the same time, it has sold military vehicles and drones to Ukraine, bolstering its weapons industry. Ankara has even used its leverage to pressure Moscow to unblock Ukrainian grain exports, establishing itself as a respectable regional power. In substance, Turkey is filling the niche that France wants for itself. Taken together, the desire for
Wait, why are Azerbaijan, Georgia, Armenia colored in? Did I miss
niche
something?
that France wants for itself. Taken together, the desire for autonomy is hard-coded into French policy. An alliance with Washington serves Paris's immediate interests, but in the long term, it threatens to drag Europe into an unwanted showdown with Russia and China. Though there is agreement on the need for autonomy,
Sorry, I gotta stop acting like an idiot.
but in an alliance with Washington serves Paris's immediate interests, but in the long term, it threatens to drag Europe into an unwanted showdown with Russia and China. Though there is agreement on the need for autonomy, the conflicting interests of the individual states undermine European cohesion. Above all, any expanding of European autonomy equals to a loss of American influence, something Washington would not accept. Without doubt, Macron's plan and intention is grounded in legitimate policymaking, but while in theory there is no difference between theory and practice, in practice there is practically no similarity between theory and practice.
Huh?
I've been your host Shirvan from Caspian Report.
I love this channel.
Special
So
thanks
good.
to Anton Murrell for researching this topic. If you want to learn more and gain
like a
access
riddle
to
at the end.
PDF files and early access, consider joining our Patreon platform or the YouTube membership program. The links for it will be in the description. Thank you for watching, and so.
Yeah, I like being blunt in these things, and I think Caspian report was in this video. France, very interesting country. I think it's a great country, France, by the way. I really do think it is a great country. Culturally, historically, just amazing. They're a great country. Successful. I think they're the biggest tourism country, right? Just so much in such a small area. Not by European country area standards, but still by other. Really cool. These are one of the videos I really like to see answers to any of my questions, because interesting topics, and I love this channel, and it's great for that, right? No sugarcoating. I hate it. Of course, countries look after themselves before you. I think there is no such thing as friendships in international relations. I think it's just, well, there are similar cultures, and when you have a similar culture, okay, maybe there are friendships, but it's usually, don't be clouded by that. Every country obviously is going to look after each other, and when France sees Germany doing something it doesn't like because it's afraid of it undermining European like coming together, don't confuse that. France is just, they're looking after themselves. Doesn't mean that what they say is wrong. Just like with the US, just they look after the US. And so I think I'm repeating myself. Great video. See you guys next time. Bye.